This is News Center 13 tonight. The news starts now.
I'm a free man. I'm not a prisoner any place. I couldn't accept that, and I wouldn't accept that.
Cunning, daring, and determination pay off for a Bloomington man who had been trapped in Kuwait.
He is safe tonight in Amman, Jordan. It is our top story. The Hoosier native disguised himself, trekked through the desert, fooled Iraqi soldiers, and ultimately escaped to freedom. Mark Spain with the incredible tale.
46-year-old Dick Clay's journey to freedom began August 20th when he donned a baseball cap and sunglasses and tried to disguise himself as a Filipino. Thanks to a couple of guys he worked with, he even had the papers to prove it.
They got travel documents, blank copies, and forged the stamps that were necessary for them. And we then just filled them out ourselves.
The forged papers carried Clay and 128 others all the way to the Iraqi-Jordanian border. But he almost didn't get across. An Iraqi border guard noticed the Navy tattoo on Clay's hand.
When he came to me, of course, he looked at me and smiled, and he seen the tattoo on my hand. He says, "You a Marine?" I said, "No, I'm a Filipino." After a period of about 6 hours in interrogation, they decided I was Filipino and let me go.
He spent a short time at a Jordanian refugee camp with tens of thousands of others. But the worst part of his ordeal was leaving behind other Americans who he says are growing more and more depressed each day.
Most of these people, they were unfortunate in that, they had their families there. They have their, wives and children that they couldn't make a move like I made.
Just congratulations.
Yes, well, thanks a lot. That is the best present that I've had in years and years.
Dick's wife, Claudia, is greeted by neighbors who just found out her husband is safe. Claudia talked with her husband on the phone a couple of days ago and knew he was okay.
And I couldn't believe my ears when he called and he said, "It's me." And I said, "I can believe it." And I said, "Thank God, I guess our prayers have been answered."
She says family and friends thought Dick would try to escape, but not like this.
He found a different way to do it, and he did it. So all the family, they say, we just had the feeling that if he found a way to get out and disguise himself however, he was going to do it, and he did it.
I feel great. I'm glad I'm out.
Mark Spain, News Center 13 tonight.
Claudia Clay is planning a homecoming. Dick Clay told us tonight he will probably return home in 2 to 3 days. An Indiana man who made a dramatic escape from Kuwait is making plans to come home. Dick Clay forged documents and disguised himself as a Filipino to get across the Iraq-Jordanian border into neutral territory. Although Clay is free and safe, he says he has something important to do before he comes home. News Center 13's Susan Parks has more.
Dick Clay went on national television this morning to tell the story of his great escape. He showed the forged travel documents, telling how they worked up until the final checkpoint when an Iraqi guard became suspicious.
When he came to me, of course, looked at me and looked at the document, smiled and said, "Are you a Marine?" And I said, "No, sir, I'm a Filipino." And he said, "Get off the bus," and proceeded to interrogate me for approximately 6 hours, him and 2 other officers.
Finally, it was Clay's loyal employees that fought to get him out.
All the Filipinos also got off the bus and, made enough commotion and told them that they weren't leaving without me.
That mutual concern and friendship between Dick Clay and his employees does not surprise his wife, Claudia, who waits for his return in Ellettsville. He has told her by phone that he is waiting in Amman to make sure his employees get home safely before he boards a plane home. Once he does arrive,
He probably will breathe deeply and say, "Thank God that everything is behind and that I took care of all these people that I brought with me or got out of Kuwait with him." And he'll just feel wonderful about it, I'm sure.
Claudia anticipates that Dick will be home in 2 to 3 days. They're taking the yellow ribbons down at the Clay household in Ellettsville, and they're waiting for the big moment.
What is ahead for this man?
Well, it's very interesting, Ann. I spoke with him yesterday by phone in Amman, Jordan, and he says he doesn't know where he will go next. Now, he left behind $85,000 and most of his belongings, so he may have to start over. In addition, his company and other companies can't get at any capital in Iraq, or in Kuwait, I should say. When Iraq invaded Kuwait, the banks were closed. In fact, there are reports that Iraqi soldiers even went into the banks and stole some of that money. So it's very likely that his company could go under. and he says he may have to move to another company, another branch office in London.
But he does have his freedom.
As we saw, he's a very resourceful man. I'm sure he'll land on his feet.
Thank you, Susan.
You
Tom.
Live from the heart of Indiana, this is the weekend edition of News Center 13 Tonight. The news starts now.
I feel great. No problem. Glad to be back in Indiana.
Dick Clay, the quiet man, sums up his feelings on returning home after his ordeal in the Persian Gulf area. His arrival is our top story tonight. Clay is the Hoosier who used a forged Filipino passport to gain his freedom, but stuck around to make sure his friends were free too. Our Susan Parks has been following the story. She joins us now with a live report. Good evening, Susan.
Good evening, Mark. The airport is quiet now, but just about an hour ago, it was really crazy out here, as you might imagine. Dick Clay coming in from Chicago aboard an American Airlines flight. Lots of media and, of course, his family and friends. They have been waiting so long. The days have been turning into, or the hours turning into days, the days into weeks as they wait for his homecoming. This is a man, as you said, who forged documents to get out of Kuwait, who disguised himself as a Filipino to get across the Iraq-Jordanian border. Then it was on into Amman. Then he stayed in Amman for some time, then on to London, then on to Frankfurt, Germany, then on to Chicago, then into Indianapolis, home tonight. He is in a black stretch limo headed from the Indianapolis airport to his boyhood home of Ellisville tonight, where he will spend some private time with his family and friends, some much-deserved private time after a journey that most of us can't even begin to fathom. You know, Dick Clay has worked all over the world. He has been an international traveler. But for tonight, this was not just any other flight. For Claudia Clay and her 3 children, it was a night of nervous anticipation.
I don't know whether to jump or cry or laugh or what to do. What should I do?
But she didn't have much time to think. Dick's flight from Chicago was early.
Thank everybody for helping me to get here, and I'm glad to be here. Simple as that.
He looked healthy, but tired.
I feel great. No problem.
Sunburn.
Glad to be back in Indiana.
This homecoming would have come sooner had Clay not stayed behind in Amman, Jordan, to secure the release of his Filipino friends from a Jordanian refugee camp. Although Clay is free, part of his heart remains in the Mideast.
Somebody has to take some action, you know, the United Nations. Otherwise, believe me, it'll be a bigger problem and a bigger story than that of Kuwait. And there will be a whole lot more, you know, people that die because of it.
Yet Clay has not lost his sense of humor. He's looking forward to a homecoming party in his honor, a party including some of his favorite food. Your mom makes a pretty mean German chocolate cake, right?
Yeah, she does. She makes good vegetable soup, too. I like the vegetable soup. I'm not too much on the cake.
He said that he loved the noodles in his mom's vegetable soup, and he'll be spending a couple of days at home, and then he'll go on to see his mother and his brother in Springfield, Illinois, and they're going to have a bit of a homecoming, as you might understand. He said, interestingly enough tonight, that he doesn't feel like a hero. Dick Clay is a very soft-spoken man. He doesn't think that what he has done is anything really out of the ordinary. He told me tonight, he said, I had to do what I had to do. He said, I simply took a risk. He said, I couldn't stay behind in Kuwait. And again, an incredible story. As I said, the family is home tonight in Ellisville. They drove off in a black limo tonight, and they're resting, and he's going to get some rest. He said from here, he's not quite sure what he will do. The status of his company is a little uncertain at this point. He didn't want to comment too much on that, but he said he may go on to Houston to work, so he may stay in the United States for a while. For Dick Clay, he may have had enough international travel. I'm Susan Parks reporting live from the Indianapolis International Airport. Back to you, Mark.
Susan, is this homecoming going to be a private celebration, or is the whole town of Ellisville going to join in?
Well, you know, it's interesting. The neighbors are very excited. We were over there this afternoon, and they have yellow balloons, helium balloons, and banners. And the next door neighbor lady, and I wish I could remember her name, she's a very sweet lady, made a big cake for him. And he's very quiet, and I don't think that he anticipates all of that's going to be waiting for him when he gets home, but he'll be surprised.
All right, subdued celebration. Thanks a lot, Susan.